Hey boys and girls. All right, so today we're going to do multiplying decimals greater than 1. I want you to go ahead and turn it to page 335, and we are going to go ahead and try to multiply this, not multiply, just kidding, try to figure out this problem. All right, so it says read and try to solve the problem below. Jaden made a rectangular sign that is 1.4 meters long and 1.2 meters wide to post on the wall of the store. How many square meters of wall does that cover? Square meters, if you remember correctly, means we need to find the area. And area equals length times width. So we're going to multiply these two numbers together. So my problem is 1.4 times 1.2. Now, the easiest way I think that we can figure this out is by using a model board. All right. So if I have 1.4, I'm going to break it up and I'm going to put one whole over here and I'm going to put 0.4 over here because I'm multiplying it. So I have one whole plus 0.4. And then over here, I'm going to do the other side, which is one whole and 0.2. Now to figure out the answer to my problem, I just multiply to figure out what's in the box. So 1 and 1 meet here. So this is 1 times 1 equals 1. And then I've got 0.4 times 1 in here, so 0.4 times 1 equals 0.4. Down here I have 1 times 0.2, 0.2, and 0.4 times 0.2, here's the tricky part, 0.2 times 0.4. That gets us, as we know, we have 8, because you do 4 times 2, which is 8, but we have a 10th times a 10th, which is the 100th. So really, this equals 0.08. All right, so if we've got 1, 0.4, 0.2, 0.8, we actually just add all those up to find our answer. So we've got 1 whole plus 0.4 is 1.4, plus 0.2 would be 1.6, plus 8 hundredths was 1.68 hundredths. So our answer is 1.68 hundredths square meters. And that's how we do that. Okay, if we move on, we've got explore different ways to understanding it. Same problem. It says you can use a picture it model. So this is the same exact thing that we did up here, except it's using a grid. So you have 1 wholes, which means you have 10 tenths plus 2 more tenths. And over here, we've got 10 tenths plus 4 more tenths. Okay, and then what it wants you to do is it says, then you just multiply what's in the total thing. So 1 times 1 gives you the 1, 0.2 times 1 gives you 0.2, 1 times 0.4 gives you 4 tenths, and then 2 times 4 tenths, or 2 tenths times 4 tenths equals only 8 of these. So, which is 8 hundredths. And it's the same exact thing, but just using your grid. And then down here, I know most of you love your partial products. So here's the tricky part. Are you ready? How did they do this? It looks like they did 4 times 2 first and they got 8. And 4 tenths times 2 tenths, when you do a tenth times a tenth, you get a hundredth. So that's why they have 8 hundredths. They have an 8 there. Then they did 4 tenths times 1 whole. 4 tenths times 1 whole is 4 tenths, but they have to change it to hundredths because everything over here has to be the same. So we know 4 tenths equals 40 hundredths. So they put a 40 here. Then they kept going. So it looks like they're done with the 4. They've got 1 times 2 tenths, which equals 2 tenths. They did 1 times 2, which we know equals 20 hundredths. And then they did 1 times 1 whole. 1 whole times 1 whole equals 1 whole, and that equals 100 hundredths. So they added all of these up, and they got 168 hundredths. And if we want to put that in decimal form, it's telling us that the 8 is landing on the hundredths. So if we put our decimals here, if the 8 lands on the hundredths, that means our answer is 1.68. Okay? Now we're going to connect it real quick. It says, now you will use the problem from the previous page to help you understand multiplying decimals greater than 1. So if we estimate the area of the wall, we need to explain our thinking. So 1.4 is close to 1, but I would say it's also close to 1.5. But to make this a little bit easier, we're going to call it 1 because, 4 would round down anyway. So this is technically 1, and this is technically 1. So we know our answer is going to be about 1. It's going to be pretty close to 1 anyway. So then when we do the area model, so 1 times 1, 1 times 0.2, we did this on the first page, so that's 0.2. This is 0.4, and this is 0.68. No, come on, stop, Miss Sanders. 0.8, 0.8 hundredths. Okay, we've got those. Then it says, look at the model it. How do the partial products relate? So how are they the same to partial products? So if we have 1, 2 tenths, 4 tenths, 8 hundredths, do you guys see that 2 tenths is right here, 1 is right here, 4 tenths is here, and 8 hundredths is here? Technically, it's the same thing, but when we use partial products, we just went straight to all the 100ths instead of adding those up. So they're the same. And how are they the same? It says, technically, the partial products show us the same steps in each of the 4 sections of the area model. So number 4 says, both picture and model it show that 1.4 times 1.2 equals how many hundredths, which is 168 hundredths. Therefore, the area of the sign is 1.68 meters. So explain what you know about the product when you multiply tenths by tenths. So when we multiply 0.1 times 0.1, what do we know about that? We know that our product or our answer is going to be in the hundredths. Spell that wrong? Yep. Hundredths. So is the product 1.2 times 1.4 times 1.2 greater or less than 1.2? So was our answer greater or less than 1.2? Our answer was greater because you are multiplying 1.2 by a number greater than 1. So if we apply our knowledge here, I've got 0.4 times 1.8. Show your work using an area model on the base 10 grids below. So here we've got, I'm going to go across, this is my bigger number, so I know that this is 1 and 0.8, and I know that this is going to be 0.4. So 1 and 8 tenths, and then 4 tenths. And I get to use my really cool rectangular systems here. All right, so 1 and 8 tenths would be this whole plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I would come all the way down with it. And I'm going to get this, and I'm going to make it much bigger. And I'm going to color it this really cool blue because it's pretty. And I'm going to go all the way around. There we go. There we go. So that's 1.8. All right, I'm multiplying it by 0.4. So I'm going to take the shape and I am going to count 4 down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, because that's 4/10, and I'm going to come all the way over with 4/10. So I'm going to shade that with yellow. Okay. Yellow. So what you guys will notice is that there's like this green color because it's double shaded. There's yellow over here and then there's blue over here. So our answer is actually going to be the green shaded ones, which means that we need to count those up. So I've got 1 times 4 here. So we know that there are 40 here. I'm just going to write that in there like this. We know there are 40 hundredths there. And then I've only got 8 going this way times 4. And 8 times 4 gives me 32 hundredths. So 32 hundredths plus 40 hundredths equals 72 hundredths. I'm putting an H for hundredths. And I know my 2 is going to land in my hundredths place value. So that means my 2 lands here, which means my 7 lands here. And there's a 0 here. So 72 hundredths. All right. Now it says for number 9, Rosa filled her car's tank with 9.8 gallons of gas. Each gallon costs $3.85. How much did Rosa spend on gas? So we are taking $3.85 and multiplying it by 9.8. We're going to do partial products. Are you ready, ladies and gentlemen? All right. So I'm going to write this out. I'm going to get it a little bit smaller. And I'm going to turn it into black pen. All right. So 3.85 times 9.8. Very careful here. All right. So my first one is in hundredths or thousands. I'm sorry, because my 5 and my 8, if you notice that this is in hundredths and this is in tenths. So I have over here 5 hundredths times 8 tenths equals, now if I have hundreds times a tenths, that means I have thousands. So whatever my answer is, which is 5 times 8, which is 40, my answer is going to be in thousands. So I have 40 thousandths. Okay, that's my first one. Next, I have 8 tenths times, 8 tenths, because this is in tenths, times 8 tenths. Now, tenths times a tenth is 100, or 100th. So 8 times 8 is 64 hundredths, but I need them all in 1,000. So I need to add an extra 0 to get me to thousands. So 640 thousandths. Okay, I'm going to drag this over here to make my life easier. All right, so I did that one. Now I got to do 8 tenths times 3 wholes. 8 tenths times 3 ones equals, you ready? That only equals, oh boogers, I did 3 tenths. 8 times 3 is 24. And because we have a tenth times a 1, we actually have a tenth. So we need to add 2 zeros behind it because we need to get it to 1,000ths. So this is a tenth, which equals 2400 thousandths. And we need them all to equal thousandths at the end. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to add them up. They have to be similar to add them up. All right, so I've got my 8 done. 8 is done. Boom. All right, now I've got 9 wholes times 5 100ths. come back in here. So I have 9 ones, because it's in front of the decimal, times 5 hundredths. So 100th times a 1 is actually 100th, and that gives me 9 times 5 is 45 hundredths. And now to get to hundredths, from hundredths to a thousandths, I add a 0. So I have 450 thousandths. Okay? And from there, I have, so I did this one. Now I have to do 9 times 8. So I have 9 ones times 8 tenths. So I have 9 times 8, which is 72. And technically, 1 times a tenth is tenths. But to get to thousands, I have to add 2 zeros. So I have 7,200 thousandths. And then last but not least, I have 9 ones times 3 ones. And that gets me 27 ones. But I need to go from ones to 1,000ths. So that means I have 27,000 thousandths. Holy guacamole. So then we add up all of these numbers in the thousand section to get us our answer. That doesn't make sense. So if I add all those up, 27 plus 7,200 would be plus 450 plus 2,400 plus 640 plus 40. If I were to add all those up, what I get is, are you ready? 3,000 I get 37,730 thousandths. All right, so what does that mean as far as my decimals? Because I don't have 37,730 thousandths dollars, right? That's not how we talk in dollars. So in order to figure that out, I'm going to put my place value here, and it's telling me that my 0 is in the thousandths place. So I'm going to put a 0 in the thousandths place, a 3 here, 7 here, 7 here, and a 3 here, which means it's going to cost me $37.73. Okay? Now, I don't know if you guys have noticed this yet, but up here we did 2 jumps, and here we would have done 1 jump. That's a total of 3 jumps. And notice my answer would have jumped 3 jumps back. I don't know if you noticed that yet. So here's a tricky one. If I have 9.5 times 2.8, all you have to do, so instead of doing all these crazy partial products, which, hey, if you're good at them, by all means, keep it up. But really, all you have to do is take your decimal up here, move it to the end. That's 1 jump. And you take your decimal down here, move it to the end. That's 1 jump. Add up your total jumps, and it was 2 total jumps, so that's the number you hold. You do the regular multiplication. So 8 times 5 is 40. You carry your 4. 9 times 8 is 72, plus 4 more is 76. So I have that. Then I'm going to cross off my 8, add my 0. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry the 1. 2 times 9 is 18, plus 1 more is 19. Sorry, the dogs are about to go crazy. And then I add those up. And 9 plus 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Carry the 1. Now, I've got 2660. Now, I'm at the end, and I have to move my decimal place 2 back. So 1, 2. So that's my answer. Okay, this is a little bit easier in my opinion, but if you like the partial products, you're totally more than welcome. If you like to do this way with your grids, you're also more than welcome. Now on your homework today, these are 3 different ways that you can do your problems. So when it says show your work, I expect you to show your work a different way. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have for you. Goodbye.